Stroger invented not only the dial telephone, but went so far as to perfect an automatic switchboard to go with it. He then opened his own exchange in his hometown of La Porte, Indiana. It needed no operators. With innovations like the dial telephone, usage grew that much faster. By the turn of the century, there were more phones than bathtubs in America, and the impractical toy took center stage in popular culture. A light opera called Cupid's Telephone brought Bell's invention to Broadway, and the silent movies embraced the talking machine right from the beginning.
Young lady, if I may not see her, I'll rejoice to hear her sweet and tender little voice.
As the telephone began to reach the masses, grand quandaries concerning social etiquette were born. Was it, for instance, appropriate to extend invitations to one's friends via telephone instead of letter? Some wondered if this graceless device might not encourage questionable contact between unsupervised women and unscrupulous men.
You know I love no other girl but you. That's all I want to know. Ring off.
While usage continued to expand, the independent companies got the bulk of the business, and Bell now owned less than one-half of the phones in America. It seemed the more service grew, the more ground Bell lost. Something had to be done, but again, it would take massive amounts of capital. J.P. Morgan, one of the richest men in the world, had for years had his eye on the Bell Company, now called AT&T. The stage was now set for his entrance.
He had access to the capital markets, and he had a plan for the reformulation of the Bell enterprise. He wanted to drive the Bell system toward the point where everyone would have access to a telephone, and it would be a Bell telephone.
He seized control of the company. Morgan's ruthless approach to business was simply to buy his competitors or crush them. By the time of Morgan's death in 1913, the independent movement was over. The company was well on its way to becoming a monopoly once more. The public clamored for long-distance service, but the challenge had frustrated inventors and businessmen for 39 years. The science required to send the human voice clear across the United States simply did not exist. The first breakthrough occurred with the invention of a signal amplifier, allowing Bell's New York lines to reach Chicago, 600 miles away. So in 1892, Alexander Graham Bell, then 45, was summoned from his Canadian retreat to place the first New York to Chicago call. Bell was so taken with the event that it became the only time in his life that he allowed himself to be photographed speaking into his invention. The wiring of America was well on its way, and "Hello, operator, give me long distance" entered the language. The Bell Company set long-distance phone rates at about 1/5 the price of a railroad ticket. In 1910, the New York to Philadelphia train fare was $4.50. A call was 80 cents. Demands that the phone reach further and further continued to grow, and finally, by adapting a vacuum tube that was originally invented for radio, AT&T had the equipment. A line from New York to San Francisco was promised for January of 1915. As with the railroad and telegraph that had come before, connecting the two coasts would be an enormous task. An army of workers, mostly on foot or horseback, invaded the mountains and deserts, braving rain, cold, and blizzards. The mammoth project took over a year. 14,000 miles of copper wire and 130,000 telephone poles were needed to link the country. AT&T's management knew how risky a public coast-to-coast call could be. They hired 15,000 men, 5 men for every mile, spaced out across the country to be on the ready to fix any problems on the line. Once again, Alexander Graham Bell was lured out of retirement. To ensure the success of the event, Bell, now considered by telephone executives to be a senile, deaf old man, was asked to read a prepared script. Thomas Watson would be in San Francisco to take his call.
There is one of the marvels of telephone achievement that must always hold first place in my memory. That was the transmission of speech for the first time from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
On January 25th, 1915, in New York, Alexander Graham Bell made a 23-minute call to San Francisco. Listening in from his exclusive retreat over a specially constructed line was AT&T's president, Theodore Vail.
The AT&T guys, the men in suits who ran AT&T and Bell by this point, were not at all like Watson and Bell. And they were very worried that these two old geezers were going to get on the phone and not be able to talk or drop the telephones or just somehow mess up. So they wrote a script. So these two old friends got on the phone. Bell, of course, said, "Hoy, hoy, Watson." And Watson said, "Hoy." And they threw away the script and just started having a conversation, a coast-to-coast conversation.
Then, in a stunt that turned back the clock, Bell continued the call on a duplicate of his original Centennial telephone, the same device used in Philadelphia almost 4 decades earlier.
When the time came, Bell said, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." And Watson replied, "Mr. Bell, I will, but it would take me a week now."
Hello, Frisco,
The transcontinental call was such a great success, it was commemorated by the Ziegfeld Follies. Hello, Frisco became the most popular tune of 1950.
It was a thrilling moment to me when I realized that Bell's first crude telephone and that first wire were again bringing his voice to me across the continent with that first sentence ever transmitted by electricity. And fate decreed those words should be the last he ever spoke to me.
The wiring of America was complete. It had taken only 39 years to go from a single telephone in Boston to 11 million nationwide. Thomas Edison observed that the invention had annihilated time and space and brought the human family in closer touch. When he turned 70, Bell stated that recognition for my work with the deaf has always been more pleasing than the recognition of my work with a telephone. But it was the telephone that had transformed America. As a final tribute to Bell, upon his death in 1922 at age 75, the nation's telephones all stopped ringing for 1 full minute.
The thrill of fame and fortune, the chill of nature at her most extreme. To the Klondike in search of wealth, they found danger and death, gold fever. A lifelong quest for recognition led him to attempt what no man had done before, alone on the ice. Thrills and chills, next time on The American Experience. There's more about the telephone on the web. And subscribe to The American Experience online to learn about upcoming programs and features. pbs.org. America Online keyword PBS.
Hello, Frisco, hello.
Hello, New York, hello. I love you.
I've been so
To order The Telephone on video cassette or other programs from the American Experience, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.
Have you been through?
I love no one but you.
Your voice is like music to my ear.
I feel mighty glad that you are here.
New York, I told you what to say. Hello.
The American Experience is made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. And by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation to enhance public understanding of the role of technology. The foundation